They're actually, the board decided to then go back to the open space committee, open space plan to do it again, do round two. Established a preliminary committee to do the survey. And Margaret and I were on that along with Mary Beth. The survey was done. The survey results came back. We've been engaged with the county, and things are going very slow. So we need to push to get that to move fast. The next step is to start to.
Some of those are still viable, but some are gone, some got bought. I think you tried to.
My schoolhouse in Woodside, and it's now Written Farms. Or New Written Walk, sorry, New Written Walk. So some of it went, some of it was purchased. There are some that are still probably viable, and there are probably other people who can be approached. So the next step is to identify the places to go. And one of the calls of Mary Beth's article was, if you know people who might be willing, you probably know more people than certainly I do. So people are encouraged to think about who you know, and we just would like to see this get moving.
Is there a bottleneck somewhere that's slow this down?
I think so. I talked to Mary Beth about it, and I guess the board was waiting on the county, but the county moves at a snail's pace, and there's no reason to wait for the county. The idea is people approach to, you can do it from Google Earth, or you can figure out who has more than 10 acres, or maybe you start with farmable ground. Like that's what I would start, not just in acres. And then we know who all farms are, farm it, or we can sit, we can talk to them. A great example of waiting and what happens is the Daniel Boone House. When Barry Road and drove that, I looked at buying that years ago, and it was $875 or something. I don't remember the number. It started valued higher than that. We were farming the ground, 19 acres, and beautiful house from 1751. You know, Boone's parents lived there. It's got great history. Well, we passed on it at 875. I think WB Homes or somebody bought it at 550. They turned around, developed 3 lots, sold the house for 550. So they essentially bought it, the whole property for 550, sold the house for 550, got 3 lots, and the house they're building now just sold for 2.5 million.
But you never approached the township and asked the township to help you buy that land?
I did, and that's when previous manager was here. I think so.
Okay.
So
You know, there's enough people, it's not a party, it's not, that moved here because of Jesus. That moved here because of the pseudo rural, that's one.
yes,
So we've got to inspire people, we've got to make people mad, maybe that we're losing. And every time Toll Brothers puts up a sign, everyone grumbles and whatever, but how do we activate the population to, I mean, will we have to knock on doors and hand out cookies or?
Should we show the math?
It's a very finite number of parcels available. Those people could be contacted every 6 months. And that's, I mean, that's it, you know, by someone.
it's very
Or
simple.
by, yeah,
We get letters every week from developers, and I
did you get letters from the township?
Yes.
Right.
Your option.
explaining.
phone call.
Right.
Well, maybe a letter follow up with a phone call, maybe an idea, because it's mostly, did you know? A lot of landowners don't understand. First of all, Act 319, which is amazing act in the county, with that allows, if our property taxes are half of it, would be, because we can generate $2,000 a month a year of income, right? To then qualify for Act 319 in our property taxes. They're down, however, if they were sold, they would be able to do that. So that's a lot of people don't even know that exists. Then the whole preservation process, which we probably should educate them on proactively by identifying those parcels and making sure we make contact with them. The Barry Road, within the list here, we farm that. We try to buy that, but the owner is in California.
Not 10 acres.
That's 10 acres. That's great. Acre. We're going to lose it with 4 houses. But we tried to talk to the owner, there was an elder lady who was in California and didn't really seem to connect with us, and then next thing you know, somehow the developer got to him, and made all the it's gone. So we gotta act now. We gotta attack this aggressively, yes.
It seems to me in like a densely populated area like this that you, when you have, say that you want a 10-acre parcel, like you're making your choices so small and your passion for open space, doesn't it seem like it would make sense to, and engage the public more if you were able to get easements on 1 acre or 2 acres, like we have maybe not too many people that have 10 acres, but we have a lot of people that might have 2 or 3 acres. And what's wrong with preserving, like on the idea of a tiny forest type thing, of preserving 1 acre or 2 acres or a half an acre?
I can answer that easily. It's because most of that land cannot be developed anyway. It's probably because of the zoning, because of the natural resource. It doesn't need to be, you're not gonna be able to subdivide off 1 acre for a house in most situations. But what I think is a good idea, just to segue that, is having multiple, say, 4 acres, that in terms of conservation easements, not in terms of agriculture land.
Yeah.
But, in terms of that, and but again, it has to be at risk of being developed in order to be worth preserving or.
Was there a way to get, is there, I mean, if we're desperate for all, like. if
Not until
we're-
the list goes down, because right now there's, I checked, there's 20-some farms in the list waiting to be preserved. This is from who's gonna pay for what? You're gonna look for the most valuable property that has the most development.
And that's,
Right.
your point, or more valuable than an acre of woods. That's like a problem with the point of view, right?
Well, only-
1 acre, areas more easily. I'm not saying that.
You can't
can
develop
do
it, you can't really develop 1 acre in most cases.
If you would have to look at the zoning area where there's a requirement that every house have an acre or such. If there's no zoning permission for there to be further development of that 1 or 2 acres, there can only be 1 house on that parcel. However, there are some spaces, the last planning board, there was a woman who wanted access to a second road, because down the line, it seems she's going to want to sell off the back of the property to the developer. Probably.
Yeah.
She didn't deny that maybe that is a smaller thing to go after, but it is still a thing that could be going after.
I like that idea, but I see that more of a long, kind of low hanging fruit. If we don't act on it right away, it could be gone right away. So I think from the standpoint of prioritizing, I like the idea because we've got a lot that's just under 5 acres. I would love to give some of that too, or get some money from that from the preservation. But the bigger thing is what we need to act on as quick as we can. We've got the money sitting there to do it. But the question is, where is it? Where's the choice? How do we get it?
The choke point is the county, but, the township can go, I think, probably, my guess, is more pressure on them.
What are we making
Well, there's
on the
no-
town?
Well, that's a good question. Do you remember what Dave said he was gonna come back with? I mean, it was very fuzzy.
There's no reason to wait.
Yeah.
In my view,
Right.
it's a township for more than 10 acres, period. We make a list of that. We send them a letter. Basically says, did you know? And then we ask them if they're interested, and then if we schedule, I'm happy to be, needs to start with us, because we've been waiting for way too long. And the
Yeah.
county does a great job of serving things, but I think that money has, we don't have time.
What? Okay, yeah. So we're advisory, but people listen to what we say. We can make a recommendation. We can write up a recommendation, we can take input, and we can write up the parameters, and I can put it into words, share it around, and, say, okay, we'll do it, send it. But let's make a recommendation, and I think we need everybody, right? What should our recommendation be to the board of supervisors?
Please, so we can bring a bunch of people with us to reinforce the issue with that thing.
We can put it in writing, and we can ask for it to be on the agenda.
The recommendation supervisors, and then at the board of supervisors meeting would be where the public would show on that. Let's not make it reset, that's part of our problem. I'm sorry.
Mike, what reason waiting for, you mentioned,
In the Bucks County ordinance.
are any in Superintendent Township of those?
Sure.
Okay,
The county has a really good open space program. Rich Harvey did an amazing job. He retired, and I don't know if that was any other, was it?
Township
No,
supervisor,
the county commissioners.
the commission.
They didn't seem to be as supportive. I think they were from the lower county, and now the list continues and the funding continues, and I believe a portion of that funding, they're not mentioning excellent cigarettes and things. There's some interesting ways that they.
You mean in the township fund? It is, I think, about 6 million now.
Oh, Jesus, well, let's spend it.
That's real money.
It's
Well,
not,
it's-
oh yeah, it's a challenge before, all of a sudden I may not see that so much, but
So let me help educate you on what happens. This is me speaking. I have no other goals that everyone, where you have 100-acre property, they'll offer you $25 million if they can get 1,000 homes, knowing that they'll never get. So they lock ours with this. But the reality is, once they go through the planning process, then the actual buildable property parcel would be less than. And all of a sudden, they encumber it, there's lots of things that happen in those situations. This is just my experience and nothing else. So we have to be really mindful when we talk to the landowners, they're gonna tell you you're gonna get X. And so, even in my view, if I were to do anything like that, I would advise them if they force to sell, that they would want top dollar, and then a percentage of every house that store, at least make them think twice about buying.
Yeah, just wanted to say that maybe something that could be done is, letters go out and then there's an open house where they can come and talk to people about that.
Which is our farm, do there.
Correct.
Other people with the sort of problem.
I mean, the other thing is there explains how municipalities can provide, purchase of development rights and easements. And that has to do with getting appraisals done. You have to have a couple of a peak to get that difference between the development, to purchase the development right. They can do their best to make it attractive, and like you said, by combining different programs, and then you're gonna be on a long road with that developer. With us, you're gonna see your money, or it can be structured that you get your money there and sit down with the township solicitor to create what they need for their own financial plan. I mean, all kinds of possibilities, but I have to say, because they don't have enough staff. So
We've got to get the money in the ballpark, so people. With a caveat, that make sure you're dealing with apples and apples, not there is guilt, shame, or whatever. I mean, and that's why people like you, other farmers, that's why we can't wait for too many generations past farmers. Because I remember playing there, we were just talking about.
my neighbor, 35 acres, he remembers the bald eagles when he was growing up. And when his father, his sister wasn't happy, but he did it.
I mean, we've got to play it in a situation where anyone that is even interested in learning about it, that are on our place would be absolutely great, because we're going to see us.
It sounds like the list might be short enough to be a little more strategic about it, you know?
Yeah.
Got a feeling people know people, through not very many iterations. I think if we made a clean, good list, kind of figure out how to pursue people, but, to have a mindful, potential good conversation.
We know enough folks that have already preserved.
yeah, I really like the idea of an open house, but also invite particular people. Do you think the solicitor coming to this for comment questions to him, Deb, you have an idea? The solicitor then?
Someone that's
Someone from
important.
the
I think
township,
the
someone
township
that's
manager would
official.
be adequate, this, and then kind of identify the different programs that the township can offer. Some is for agriculture, some is for woodland, some is for, you can do this, you can do that, but basically, again, I don't think it's a big problem to have two people with 5-acre woodlands to say, would you grant us the money as, our capital?
I think that there are some people in Doylestown Township that have done it, that have, who, not necessarily because, they wanted more, but they wanted simply to, have continued to contiguous acreage, that could be protected. It was sort of on the back of where the back of it, which is also, like the riparian area. So that's worth exploring.
Our zoning does that, the watershed zoning agreement, in that you have to set aside anything, all of these natural resources. They're protected and they get netted out, and different things. So even though, there are these theoretical rights to 1 house per acre, never happens.
Maybe Deb, thinking about the acreage that's 5 to 10 acres.
Are you aware of anyone that has put together a list of properties that are already preserved, properties of those smaller values that perhaps the township could purchase and rent? Or even if it's a conservation easement, the town that owns the farm could purchase it back from the township, and the two lots could be merged into one, so that you still have a tax saving. One that's put together a list like that.
I mean, I like the 319 idea, because that would be an easy list to pull, to say who has Act 319.
There's some farmland for the smaller parcels.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think we should preserve everything we can, but from a priority perspective, if you're looking for the big
Right.
money for fill out that application, you get scored, and so it's out of 100. So however much money the county, state, and municipalities want to contribute, they said, I mean, comes up, we have $5 million this year to spend on preservation. So we look at the list of those people that have served that many farms. So that would be the county and the state level. Everything else would be municipality specific, so it would be something we written township.
Perhaps.
The county
Preserve some
mapping,
of the
the county
smaller-
mapping programs are great. If you can sit down with a county planner and give them those parameters, they can do it.
We should talk to properties like that, and owners would be interested in merging properties.
Yeah, I mean, that's already an ag property, so to speak. So it's going on 319.
Yes.
And then keep that in the box you work in. Let's exhaust all of that before we would talk maybe about the smaller parcels. The small parcel, our equipment, our wings on our plows go out 40 feet, so you can't even deal with a small parcel. So if it's a woodlands or it's free ag.
Yeah, that's why I said.
Yeah.
But the other thing you wouldn't find in that information is, for example, when a parcel can preserve the rest of it, or deed restrict is from further development. And so there are many out there that are not going to say, from further development. So
There's also a concept of transferable deed restrictions. So some counties, some townships do this.
TDR, transferable
TDRs.
development.
In a number of cases where, let's say you have two 100-acre farms and it's 2 acre zoning, so you get 50 houses on each. TDRs allow them to put 100 houses on one and preserve God, 100 acre, both 100 acres will develop. But you put 100 homes on one and you preserve 100 acres on the other. So that was a really good idea, I thought. I think it's kind of tricky because then the bank and like they can be treated like it's really crazy, but if you do it like that, it's a great concept. At least preserve 100 acres, because for the acreage, I'm not building warehouses to grow food, so now on the lights, there's something like that.
Okay, so for a recommendation, because if we make advisors, and then we can ask for it to be put on the agenda, or we could make a recommendation to have the open house. That also would have to be something we're talking about. So question is, do we want to recommend both simultaneously? We can do it as a package. Here's our idea. We want you guys to start. And one of the ways we want to facilitate that is contacting each of the one point that someone interested in finding out how that works as a pathway. And we'll have something, but we should say there's a top 10 that we're interested in. Let's try and plan that when we think they're being advertised a little bit. It just makes sense because we have other options once we get it going, but we haven't done anything for so long. But we need to get a couple chunks going, get the oil running for the, let's get some big plots. So direct approach to particular owners. And also invitees to the open house. Those particular owners can also come.
But to mix with other people to know about the programs because they participate. And they can say why we did, or why we wish we did.
I would suggest that 5-step proposals current, not the old list we have, that are north of 10 acres integrated township and farm, so to speak, or woodlands would say.
If I can jump in for a second, I think the county is sort of working on that a little bit right now.
Don't wait for that.
They
The
haven't done that.
township engineer can do it. They've got.
I know.
So we create, only that we may have to do it ourselves, right? Create those skunk works. We create the list, right? Second thing is we create a letter list wherever we go online. I don't go deeper, it's not 20, whatever it is. We send a letter educating them about the process of preservation or the interest in the house, so to speak. We have a beautiful barn that's well lit. It's a magical place to have a meeting like that. I would host that. And we can invite them to that event. From that event, is anybody interested? And then that's when we set up meetings where a few of us would go and meet with them in person. And then the fifth one is the follow up from there. But if we agree as a group that we're gonna stay with it and focus on it, I think it's a good success. In the spirit of Leonard Crook, when he was starting this, once it started rolling, it started to roll, and we don't have much time to wait, so I would not wait. We'll get what we get from them, we got to ourselves.
Six, perhaps every 3 months. No card, something, call, has it gone? Because you may have to catch them in between funerals.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hopefully before the funerals.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's
preferable.
Okay.
It's Toll Brothers. They do come to funerals.
They do.
They do. Mr. Blumber, when he passed away, he had a land, but he didn't sell. Some developer came up to his daughter-in-law at the funeral.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, the wrong person to go to, but she's a little tough, she can help.
Good.
Told her to take it, you know.
On all our,
Yeah, and so that's what he did, is that he left these separate. He didn't
Okay.
combine any of them, so they wouldn't be. But yeah, but the developer was. And that evil, that is just so base.
you are.
All right, I think we have a plan. Shall I put this together and a written recommendation? We'll send it the next one. I think that they could do it for the next one, there's enough time. And we'll let you know. I'll shoot out an email to everybody. If I see that it is, I'll let you know whether it is or it isn't on the board of supervisors agenda. And
ESC recommendation. I motion that the ESC make the recommendation to the Board of Supervisors regarding open space, pursuing open space.
terrific. Thank you very much, Mike.
Well,
Thank you.
You were the chips for the first week. Hopefully, they'll get moving.
Yes, July.
Okay. The next thing on the agenda, I'm sorry that Mandy's leaving because she's a planter. What are you two plans?
Oh, what's good for everybody else?
General.
Weekend, weekends.
ASAP.
Yeah, yes, we have a pollinator garden. Lucy is babysitting the plants.
I've got 400 plants in my house. We've seen that.
Yeah, we got the 100 plants from Bowman's and they were these cute, they were cute little orange pots and now they're.
Sunday, Monday, Tuesday.
So we need to pick a day. We don't need to choose the exact day right now, but if I could get some parameters evening, we can do it in a couple.
The last weekend in May, like in the morning, maybe?
Is that in time?
How about next week?
No, not me. I mean, the last weekend in May, maybe. It is
It's
not.
good.
Yeah.
Very close, right?
Yeah. Is that too late?
Whatever.
Let's be able to do like, say, the afternoon of Sunday, the 18th at 3 o'clock. Or something like that. No?
The plants are
Never
under
mind.
3, sure, 3 o'clock.
I know. All right. You know what? Scheduling is just not something you should try to do.
No.
I've tried a couple times before. I will get in touch.
You can send it out to everybody, and everybody can put when they're available or
Survey monkey or something.
something like that.
Okay, we'll try it.
Good.
We'll get it planned. Okay, thank that Berry Road subdivision plan. We are advisory. We are now in the line of boards that receive new subdivision plans to us. And we get to just give some input. We don't make any decisions whatsoever. But from an environmental standpoint, we can give some input or some commentary. These places with this. There is a row of large trees, some 48, 50-inch caliber trees that the developer, and you
I
know,
do not.
but you farm that plot,
Oh, yeah,
so you're familiar that the big ones are healthy, right?
not an arborist.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're in the middle of the property.
It's all this stuff.
Some of those are very, very good size.
Are they proposing to cut those down?
All of them will not.
Absolutely, I would say.
So the thing with this is regarding storm, maybe as a master watershed, some things involved here. The site is challenged in terms of infiltration. The bedrock is only a few feet below surface. So they can't put in a base storm tanks, which are big plastic holding tanks that capture the water that comes off the impervious surface, mainly from the gutters, holds it for a while so that it doesn't run down at the same time all the other water is running down into the creek. And then after a time, it slowly releases it so that it goes to the creek at the bottom of the hill. That is, it is not typically allowed. It is only permitted if there is a challenge regarding infiltration. And infiltration is a problem here because the bedrock is 2 to 3 feet under. Options, infiltration and transpiration, meaning what trees do. They take it in, they take it up, and they kind of sweat out into the air. Those have been exhausted. They're the rules. So I think we are. A second thing to take into consideration is that the Bucks County Conservation District has to pass it in terms of its stormwater management plan. The pages of the plan that we saw do not all go plans with specific things about stormwater management. Amanda Sandor, who was the inspector, did not know those trees exist. She didn't know until I told game. And so what is happening is that the suggestion is take out the whole road, including very large trees, which are doing a lot of transpiration, and to put in a store webs. Well, that's not even good.
I know.
Right? Sequester, I know. That's put in, and which apparently aren't enough to handle the impervious that is being put in there. And then Amanda, that's what Amanda, who was the inspector for BCCD, gets to look at.
Up over time.
That's, I was thinking, that is
Yeah,
number
there's
2.
no maintenance, how do you get to them?
We talked about that at the
That's
last
why they-
time.
Eventually,
That's
there's no-
what
The plans speak to, the homeowner association for the 4 houses to maintain them.
Mhm. So the town and the homeowners become responsible. And there's a long list of what is expected of the homeowners to do about cleaning them out. It's pretty onerous. So people can say what they think about this is, okay, number one, it would seem incorrect to me to say that all options have been exhausted for a natural transpiration when you have already taken down. You've preemptively taken out a huge piece of that. So I would want to point that out. And the second would be that volume with the MS4, separate municipal separate storm sewer system permit, which is a big push by the state and many states to take care of the horrors with stormwater. It's with floods. We have polluted all our creeks because what happens is the stormwater runoff goes across fertilized land, salty, chemical-laden land, and it all goes down to the creek. And so you get flooded, it takes loose soil, and it creates too much sediment in the creek, and it kills all the little critters, and the whole ecosystem starts to collapse out of the creek. One thing I can't help saying that the developer said to the homeowners who were there complaining at the planning meeting about the flooding, and he said, what we are doing is pushing the water to the creek where it belongs. That's not, it is not, no, it's water, we are doing everything in our power to keep it away from the creek, to stop it before it gets to the creek. And the new standard for the MS4 program, it used to be ships were each dumping into the creek in terms of junk. Now it's volume. Now it's just sheer volume of water, and it's measurable. And it will be measured. So my second point to the township would be, you really need to think the maintenance isn't going to be there, and the volume will simply increase.
The other challenge with retention of water is the fact that we need to recharge the aquifer,
Yes.
because so many of us don't recharge the well, so that's a big piece of this. Well, I don't know that that's served by public water.
No,
There's no way.
It
Those other houses don't have,
They have sewer now, they don't have water.
I didn't see anything on there about roofs.
Maybe they're coming in from another angle or something to get it, but I know very good, we just,
I didn't say sewer.
You mean okay, so I said my piece, as you can tell, I get hot under collar about this sort of stuff. We usually have suggestions for what they might want us to say to the township. This is our first chance to make any kind of recommendation in subdivision. So, for secret laws, they allow the Water Conservation District to go in and she needs to go over there and walk it. You need to walk the land, you can't, especially if you're doing trees. So,
We have so much fragmentation, it doesn't look like there's a lot of trees on the plan. Paper plan. But we're told we're not allowed to walk it. She should be,
so
that's her job, to keep our water safe. We're depending on her to do her job, let her do her job. That's my,
unfortunately, and this is the trick, that isn't how it works. She can go to the plan as she has it, and what they are claiming for their stormwater to show that they are able to handle volume. That doesn't count the subtraction of the trees. She isn't, her job is in different areas so that one doesn't cross pollinate the other.
compartmental.
It's compartmentalized. Her section of that carpet going ahead of time and even knowing that there are trees doesn't matter.
Yeah.
First off, do we need to do a recommendation tonight, or can we tonight, it needs to go tonight? I know everybody's talking here, but if you're gonna do a recommendation, it needs to be, if there's a clock taking on this plan. The second thing, one thing that I think covers both of your concerns would be to recommend that the board of supervisors ask the developer or whoever to appropriate review of the proposed tree removal on the efficacy of the proposed stormwater system. That's all.
I say, which,
We can say that. We can say that.
I mean, the question is, do we need to get this done tonight?
I don't think, I will have to ask if they move slowly, right? I think if we could finish it at the June meeting. This is our second try, getting it up now. I don't see us ever getting it done, so I'd like to get somewhere tonight so that at the June meeting, we could finish. So ladies, write that down, if you have it down, it's not for that later.
you know, I,
Okay.
but we can discuss.
The plan says North Penn Water Authority.
Oh, that's right.
But there is one.
That is, it'll be served by public water.
Is there pipe?
There's no water pipe in the street on Barry Road.
No, it used to be.
Maybe there's an easement.
Maybe there is.
Could I make a suggestion that you and one of your members, meet with the township engineer, request a meeting, and you can answer your questions, or at least, satisfy you to some degree. I think, that's a better way to go in advance of board of supervisors. So the township engineer, they are the ones that approve or recommend approval, and all those plans, but haven't addressed your concerns, but he would be able to say, you can't do that, and this is why, or you must do that, and this is why, and there's no alternative, respond or make a recommendation to the board, I think.
We can do that. Frank already likes this, right?
He's, I don't think that's the right term. You say likes it?
He recommended.
Okay, it does, it meets the ordinances, but doesn't mean it's the only way it can be done. So, or if there's, an alternative that, certainly in planning commission, first of all, we don't need a piece of paper anymore, I gotta look at it on, screen, but you go back and this and that, we're on paper. But anyway, I think that, he knows all that, and, these are simple, they do them, it doesn't mean they can't answer the questions, because, and they do need to answer the questions, because they are the ones that sign it.
Right, the buck stops, but they're the people who do it. We could do that. What I wouldn't want that to do, because I think there are other ways to go about any of these development plans. And I think that the township has sort of been in, that is pretty much designed by the developers, and they get pushed back in terms of, we need more conservation easement, or little things like that. But in terms of changing development, which is, you don't just go in and clear it, right? Which is what they do, and which is what exactly what they want to do here, totally clear it, and then go with bulldozers to make the mounds of topsoil, etc. What we do is at least plant the seed that there could be more room to say to developers, let's look at another way of going about this that could include.
We consult with the Bedminster Township folks. They've got this down pat. They have a completely different stance with developers. They are known to push back on this.
Okay.
So there's learnings there to go
It requires you to review the ordinances and make recommendations to the subdivision and land development ordinance. Isn't in the zone.
Oh, I know.
Law,
I know.
so, yeah, so I mean, just to make a recommendation is fine if you can get everyone to cooperate and feel good about it.
Particularly for the administrator, for the applicants.
I would start with the township manager.
So sort of like, and again, this is me, it's sort of in the way that we're saying we want to jumpstart something to matter, right? If we're gonna rubber stamp these because they, in some minimal way, satisfy the ordinances, then why, we're not even, us, we're not even, there has to be something we can do to tweak the bumpers that come in and just start taking out 50-inch caliber trees. Because it's so much easier to simply clear a plot of land entirely and then start. And then, of course, they are planting 3-inch caliber trees along the street and along the homes. And that's what it would be, just like all the others we've seen. We could meet with engineer, there is, Katie is pointing out to me that there is a pipe along somewhere, Sherman Barry Road. It's very, yeah. We could start by trying to talk to some Bedminster people and meeting with Gilmore, to chat about this. about
Attend, you do
possibilities.
attend planning commission, right? Or no, nobody, you should have someone in plan distributed when they're submitted.
So this was the first one, and we didn't have a zoning officer, and so Janine was being everything. And kind of at the last second, she sent it to us, and I asked some questions, and she was busy, and we could see that it was on your agenda, Deb, the planning commission agenda. So we did that. We should actually have somebody come, like we should appoint somebody to go to your meeting comes up.
Wait, ad hoc.
Ad hoc, right. So that's something that we should do. We should have somebody appointed to go to your meetings, and then all these things are on our list. It's very late. Most townships around here have had EACs for decades. So we're very late in that regard. We finally have one, and now we need to do what we do. Okay, so we'll try to contact Bedminster, and the problem with meeting the engineer is that it costs money to pay by now.
Developer pays it.
If we meet with the engineer,
Developer pays whatever costs. them.
Yes, I'll do that.
They do it.
We would have, so we, great.
let's make a
Point the game.
Yeah. Right. We've listed a lot of reasons why we think there could be a concern, whether or not it minimally satisfies those saldos, the saldo ordinances. That doesn't mean there couldn't be a better way to do it. And can't put it on into there. She's really, really, really restricted by it. The things she looks at when she looks at.
Which doesn't make sense to me.
Go to Harrisburg. I mean, that's where it comes down to. It comes down. Okay, so can you send it to Bedminster, and we'll see if we can meet with somebody from Gilmore and talk about how, and we will have somebody explain. When's your next meeting, do you know?
It just had pants, I mean, it was one that got postponed again because it wasn't enough for the agenda. Do we have one?
27.
27?
May 27th? Okay. Okay.
So there, it's got a regular standing meeting, but usually it's canceled.
What's your day of the week?
What's Tuesday?
Yeah.
I think that's a 27th.
Fourth Tuesday, sorry. We have so few anymore that, you know, kind of like, maybe that's not gonna happen. We used to have them twice a month.
But that's the thing, so it's.
We don't do planning, we review plans.
Right, you redo the plans, yeah. And you know, it'd be great, sometimes, I'm glad you're here, but sometimes you come to our meeting. Yeah, we should all cross the
We should vote on something next month, so I would recommend that we circulate on email bullet points. Should I keep it as brief as possible? And then they're just predictions and then we vote on this. I think one or two of us can meet with Gilmore and communicate to the rest of the folks instead. But it would be nice if everybody has any questions for Craig. We can those back.
We'll do a motion. Okay. Any input, any additional suggestions from out there? I know you care about this stuff. All right, moving on, other business, I would mention that the EFC table at the Nestor Watershed Steward plant sale this Saturday. Native plant sale, come on out, it's at the Grange. It's
For the following weekend, or the next.
yes, Senator Fowler. Awesome. Any other business? Public comment? We've exhausted everything.
Oh, no, I've been thinking a lot, since winter, and, I know you guys addressed these, but, and now that I have an electric car, it's salt, like, it's like a magnet. And then, but there's just an excessive amount, certain communities out west, they don't use salt anymore. It's calcium chloride or whatever, I'm saying salt, but it's a salt. I'm wrong, that it's really environmentally wonderful, but,
It's terrible.
No, it's not.
it's probably really bad, and it's bad for your cars, and that I'm just thinking in terms of your recommendations that, come budget time or something. Maybe there are applicators that could be put on, but maybe you guys too, the Public Works Department prior to, budget time, they're gonna say, we can't
I
do
just
that.
want to say, along Creek Road, and they put down so much salt, and then they turned and came up Old Montgomery Road. And it was just incredible, the amount of salt that was coming out, and
But on King Road where it was right on the bridge, he had turned around at the end of King, on one of the two little bridges
were the
there.
mounds of salt.
He lifted up, there was a speed bump of salt, right
So
going
Brittany
right
Drive-
into the creek.
Brittany Drive, the intersection, right outside my house, pile of salt most of the way.
Somebody, I don't know if it was a township employee or not, but they came back with a shovel and a truck, and they shoveled the pile. And I don't know if it was.
They shoveled it.
Take it away.
Oh,
So it was like, but it wasn't a yellow township.
somebody.
So somebody, homeowner, decided that they were going to pick up.
Well,
the pile.
people don't say.
So that was just an issue that it's been, in my cross, so I just wanted to throw it out and say, you guys looking for an issue with that?
Right.
I mentioned in my Zook molasses, they're in the Clean Brook area, they have like molasses solutions for road treatment that are used.
Right, they are using that west of here in the
Yeah.
Harrisburg area, yes.
Yeah.
It is a viable.
Yeah, I mean, before we all laugh and think it was application.
And Chester says the company to me, right, and I sent
did.
it on to Marriott. I also spoke with Dan, several really good webinars, it's a topic nationally.
No, it's a big,
Well,
it's a real
in
thing.
places.
No,
In places with.
There are, all kinds of approaches, some of which are equipment that cost money. There's just many. And I offered to send it, and there's a real loud reception this time. So, yeah, I think that, let's put it on the agenda for next time.
I might be able to engage a conversational standpoint.
Right.
In the meantime, though, I would also recommend for any residents to contact the township. I mean, we can make recommendations, but Director Brian Pressman, they need to hear from the residents too, and go over supervisors. They're the ones that are making the decisions. We're just here to.
Properties with our tractors on winter, and it's a liability function. Our insurance agency, and if we don't put down salt, sue, and they all wait 2 years, later for the second year to sue us if we do not clean. They know how to play the game, and if you don't, if you're using it, but unless it has like a stamp of approval by whomever, that says this is as effective, if not more so than salt, and liability turns out to be all things. I agree, I don't like the salt either.
Well, it's how much, using some judgment as to what the condition is, and believe me, been in snows, and every snow is unique, everyone is different. You get out there, you do the best, and the liability is an issue, this is. I've heard some other things that were done in this subject.
I think honestly, Deb, I think that we've had some contractors this winter that, had some equipment malfunctions.
Yeah,
It was really good.
I know, but I watched the township truck do that, I mean, that was, did watching it.
Yeah.
Poor equipment. Equipment doesn't stop jumping when the truck stops and
Right.
turns. Okay, well. Yes, go ahead.
To make a motion to end the meeting.
Yeah. To adjourn.